Good morning, and welcome to the first ever virtual Grain Place Field Day. I'm Allison Vetter, a member of the Grain Place Foundation's Board of Directors, and most importantly, David Vetter's oldest daughter and Don Vetter's oldest grandchild. I grew up here at the Grain Place. These are truly weird and challenging times. They're challenging for ourselves, for our families, and for our communities. And for those of us at the Grain Place, that includes health challenges. I want to share with you that recently my dad had a heart attack, and he's okay, but he's trying to rest as much as possible. You might see him pop in and out of our event today depending on how he's feeling, so we wanted you to know. We are incredibly sad that you can't be with us physically on the farm, but we are really excited that so many of you can join us from afar. And before we get started, I want to help orient you to just what Grain Place is. Grain Place is really three separate but connected corporations. Grain Place is the original organic Vetter family farm. Grain Place Foods is an organic food processing facility that's located on the farm. And Grain Place Foundation is an educational and scientific nonprofit seeking to continue the legacy of the Grain Place as a pioneering organic farm. Sustainability is the reason all three corporations were formed. Sustainability of this planet, sustainability of our food systems, sustainability of the soil, sustainability of our rural community, and specifically sustainability of the farm. Grain Place Foundation is the majority owner of Grain Place, and it's charged to operate it as a center of research and education around the philosophy and principles that have guided our family during its years of stewardship of this land. Our annual field day is sponsored by the Grain Place Foundation. Those of you attending via Zoom will have a chance to participate in a live Q&A following each of two short videos about the farm, as well as following the keynote speaker. You may submit your questions using the Q&A button. And those of you watching via Facebook Live can submit questions in the comments section. Thank you for being with us today. Thank you for supporting regenerative agriculture, and we hope you enjoy the tour. I'll see you soon.
Say hello, I'm Dave Vetter, and I want to welcome you to the Grain Place Farm. We're trying something a little different this year, and I will try to give you a little bit of our history here, and then we'll kind of leave the rest of the program to our current farmers and some of our other staff. When I first came back to the farm in the mid-70s to work with my dad, we had been off the farm as a family for 15 years, and we kind of had to start over on developing an organic management system. And at first our focus was on soil health and trying to improve our soil quality because it makes crop production and management easier over time. And as we got into that a little bit more, we started trying to find ways to build off of that, and we finally decided 3 or 4 years into our conversion program that we needed to look at a long-term objective of developing a management system that was self-regenerating and self-renewing, so that we didn't have to be dependent or reliable upon outside inputs. And it took us a long time to finally be able to make that step, which we did in 2000. But to get there, we experimented with all kinds of cropping systems, different rotation systems. And after about the first 10 years or so, we kind of settled in on a 6-year rotation, and we worked through that a couple of cycles with some changes in cropping sequences, and continued to see improvement. But some things we learned from that experience led us to develop a 9-year rotation, which took us about 5 years to begin to convert to. And we are just completing our second cycle of that 9-year rotation. And obviously we've continued to experiment with the crops and the cropping systems we use within that context. Crops have changed, but our objective for using them is very similar to what we first implemented. And we're continuing to work on that. We have new variations going on today. We're looking at ways to do intercropping and a variety of other things like that. And our real objective here for the whole program is healthy soil, healthy food, and hopefully healthy people. And that kind of led us to our slogan that we've used with our production, sales, and our processing products, that how your food is produced does matter. Years later, I really appreciated Jane Goodall's interpretation of that same objective, is that whoever thought it was a good idea to use poisons to produce our food. And at this point, we're going to let other folks take you through the details of what we're doing today.
Hey everyone, this is Travis. I work here at Grain Place Inc., or otherwise known as the Vetter Farm. I'm the regenerative livestock and agroforestry specialist. So next to us you see one of our rotational pastures. This pasture stays for 4 years. It is a mix of perennial grasses, legumes, and forbs. All very high quality forage. We do 100% grass-fed beef, all direct marketed locally. This pasture is in its 3rd year. It's been a very, very dry year, and we're still able to get rapid regrowth and recovery. One, because the soil is able to hold that moisture and cycle those nutrients much better than typical soils you see around here, just because of the way we've cared for them. And then also the way that I am managing the grazing. And then here, I wanted to talk about some of the infrastructure on the farm. So the farm is broken up into 18 different production fields over 280 acres. And in between each of these, our production fields, we have a native perennial pollinator strip. These are filled with all manner of native tall grass prairie, native to specifically this region, Nebraska. Tall grass prairie, grasses and wildflowers. This is to invite predator insects and land birds and just all manner of biology to help us manage the farm while we sleep. And then we're going to go over here and look at some of the soil. This is just 2 years after that pasture comes out. And this was irrigated not long ago. You can see little worms in there. Crumbly structure. Dark color, roots moving through it. Not a lot of vertical breaking. Very healthy. Okay, and this is our 1st year corn. Here it is early July, and corn is easily 7 foot tall. Looking just as good as any neighbor's corn, just as vigorous. You can see there's really no nutrient deficiencies in the corn. The soil is cycling and moving nutrients around, getting it to where it needs to go. It's really the biology in the soil that's getting that job done. We're going to move up here and show you one of our experiments. We're trying some higher population skip row planting, and in the skip rows we're doing some cover crops in between. The goal for here is to again break up the field even more, allow more space for natural biology to come in, and the legumes and the annual grasses and everything in here are great for soil building. They're going to provide nutrients and nitrogen for next year's crop, and the other goal is to provide a little extra biomass for some grazing. All right, now that we're here, I just want to go over a few points on why livestock integration is so important. So why I've integrated pigs into this orchard setting here is to encourage a little bit of animal impact, which is beneficial on the land. They're going to break up and spread around this brome sod. They're going to rub some of these trees, the bark on them smooth, keeping cutworms and bagworms on the ground. They're also going to help self-prune off some of these hazelnuts. They'll clear off a lot of the hazelnuts that are on the ground. Their manure adds a lot of energy and nitrogen into the soil. But this orchard strip here is a strip of apricots and hazelnuts, and you can see we're right next to the corn we were just on the other side of. All right, and I just wanted to touch on one more thing. As you can see, our pigs are very happy and healthy here, being joined with the land. This is really where they're meant to be. In stark contrast to confinement pigs, They really only have one bad day. Confinement hogs only have one good day. They both happen at the same place. But you can see these pigs are out here in harmony with the land, rubbing and scratching and plowing and eating and tails wagging. Doing that really enables this regenerative system to work. Without animals on the land, it does not work. And without taking care of animals in an ethical and ecologically sound manner, it doesn't work either. Just out here next to our popcorn, this is the second year of corn in the rotation, the last year before it goes back to pasture. But I just wanted to touch on something that who needs insecticides when you got weeds? This is smartweed, Polygona pennsylvanica, and Japanese beetles really, really love it. They also really like, as you can see, they're tearing into the amaranth or the water hemp, but as you can see, no damage in the crop. Here we are at our radish crop experiment. This is a tillage radish. We're using it for a seed crop, but most farmers would be using this to break up hard pans and recycle any nitrogen left over in the soil from the previous crop. It's a good one to go after soybeans, before corn. And something about the root exudates, the sugars that the root leaves behind in the soil, really mellows out the soil, really gives it a nice structure, invites a lot of good biology in. So here at the Grain Place, we really believe that how your food is produced does matter. And what we really mean by that is the way the soil is taken care of, the way you take care of the microbial populations underground, the way you take care of the biology, the plant life, the animals, the birds above ground, really makes a difference in the quality and the nutrient density and just the healthy aspect of your food.
So what we're doing here is a little research project to see about skip rows. So you can see we've planted our field generally like we always do, but here in the middle of the field we've done one round where we planted one row, skipped one row, planted two, skipped a row, and planted the last row of 6-row planter. And so when we went down and back, we ended up with 3 sets of double rows and a row on the edge. That's also what we're doing is we plant typically at 31,000 kernels per acre, and that was divided by the 6 rows. Well, when we planted this, then we divided it by 4 instead. So we bumped up the speed on these 4 rows so that we would get a higher population in these 4 rows out of the 6. It's the same, it's very close to 31,000 plants per acre, but it's only on 4 rows instead of 3. So we're very interested to see how weed control will work with this. You can see we've got a mixture here planted in the skip row that we're working with the NRD to do that. And we're interested to see how the extra sunshine on the plants will affect the yield as well, especially the yield. It's going to be very interesting, and it's a bit of a research project that we're working on this year here in 2020.
Hi, welcome to Grain Place. I'm Chuck Francis, member of the board of the Grain Place Foundation, also a professor at the University of Nebraska. Together with Kathleen Dellett, Dr. Dellett and I sort of represent the land-grant universities and their resources, and we present ways to interface with the research going on and set up links with extension and other activities of the university to help in the education program. Our linkage with the Grain Place goes back at least 3 decades when Don and Dave invited us to visit there and have a tour of both the farm and the processing with our sustainable ag tours. We did several of those back in the 1980s. Since then, we've had some PhD research, such as bird inventories, fly-up counts on organic versus conventional farms near the windbreaks. We've had soil sampling for soil physical properties and fertility in the long-term rotation. More recently, we've helped with grant writing for the new agroforestry silvopastoral system with hogs and grazing and woody perennials and fruits and nuts and things like that. So that's been our involvement. In the last year, we've spent quite a bit of time analyzing the data from the first 2 cycles of the 9-year highly diverse rotation. We have the grain data analyzed, and it's pretty convincing. We've compared the results, even though some of the crops were fairly low yielding, particularly the barley, but comparing our results, even with lower yields, to Hamilton County averages for corn, both in a corn bean rotation and in continuous corn. The rotation in organics is superior profit-wise in all but 2 of the years. And there were a couple of really high corn price years back in the early part of the last decade. But in every other year in the 18 years, the organics has been more profitable. So we plan to get those data summarized onto the website so you can view them, at least in summary form, and also get them into technical publications and into extension stuff that we can use with farmers in central Nebraska. If you have interest in the research agenda, have ideas for specific research, or have students or others who would like to come to the Grain Place and see what's going on, please send them to us. And Dr. Kathleen Dellett at Iowa State University, or me at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, can be your conduit to contact people at the foundation. Thanks for joining us on this field day.